You know, call making for me has always been about the ducks. Now, it's about the ducks, honker specs, and our culture. To me, the culture of waterfowl hunting is about our shared values, respect, beliefs, traditions, knowledge, and it's that underlying sense of connection that all waterfowlers share. This is the Ducklander Podcast, and I'm Bobby Hayes.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Bobby Hayes. This is the Ducklander Podcast. And this week, I have made a list of 10 things that will make you a better waterfowl hunter. So, if you're just getting into waterfowl hunting or you're been doing it for a while and you're trying to get better, so this is a list of 10 items that will make you a better hunter if you can figure them out. So, before we get into that, coming up this month on the website, we're going to have a new educational based side of the website. It should be really good. It's calling instructions, it's more podcasts, some hunt videos, some old school hunt videos that we've done in the past, but a lot of education on decoy spreads, how to set decoys, gear reviews, and calling tips, of course, how to call duck, goose, speck, everything. So that should be coming out later this month, and I'll put it on social, probably do a podcast about it. And then for everybody that's been asking, almost all of the calls are back in stock. So I just finished a nice large batch of calls. So if you've been waiting on a color or a model to come back in, they should be on the site. And I will have wood calls coming out soon. So hopefully by the end of August, I'll be stocked on wood calls. So let's get into this list. So nothing on this list is in order. This is just 10 things that I think are probably the most important parts of a waterfowl hunt to focus on learning. So, like I said, this is a good place. If you can master all 10 of these, you're going to be a really good waterfowler. So, number one, become a master at hiding. So, you cannot kill anything if you can't hide from it. So, these birds, they live by eyesight. That's their main defense. So, you have to become really good at hiding. That means we know how to hide in the terrain, so we take advantage of anything the terrain gives us to hide in. We know how to hide a layout blind. We know how to hide an A-frame. We know how to cut grass. We get some tools to cut grass with because it takes a lot of cover to do this. And we can also just hide our person if we've got the right kind of cover. So hiding is one of the most important parts of the hunt. You have to get good at it. You got to you got to build some imagination to learn how to hide. After you do it enough, you'll see the hides that nature gives you. But that is one of the most critical parts of killing waterfowl consistently is knowing how to hide and be hidden while you're hunting. So that's a part of this that a lot of people leave out. A layout blind or an A-frame only hides you to a certain amount. And same thing with camouflage. Personally, I could care less about camouflage. You have to know how to hide inside the layout blind. You have to know how to hide inside the A-frame. So keep that in mind. That's part of your woodsmanship you're learning. So number 2 on the list is learn how to call. And I don't say that because I build calls. I say that because there's some critters in the world that we can communicate with, and waterfowl is a big one. Ducks and geese especially. They're very vocal, and learning how to call birds and interacting with them in that way, vocalizing with them, is one of the best parts about what we do. And if you're not calling at them, you're really missing out. So you want to learn how to be the best caller that you can be. And the other thing you can keep in mind on calling is good calling can make a bad hunt good or better. Great calling can make a bad hunt into an amazing hunt. So it really will have an effect on how well you can kill birds. So you want to learn it. You want to just get obsessed with calling. You want to blow on a call all the time. Like I said, we've got a ton of instructional, but you really need to get good with the call. But always keep in mind, calling is more about timing than it is how pure the notes are. Better notes help, don't get me wrong. The better you can sound, the better you'll do. But timing is the most important part of calling. So that'd be reading birds. So you need to just be obsessed with learning how to call, when to call, how loud to call, all aspects of calling. And then number 3 is be the best scouter that you can be. And this does not change whether you hunt public, whether you hunt private, even if you hunt private ground. You have to know what the birds are doing. If you do not scout and you go out and randomly and shoot a limit of birds, that's luck. So you have to know what they're doing. So one of the big keys to this game, especially if you're in a competitive area, is knowing more about the birds than the next person does. And that is, part of that is through scouting. How much you're around them, how much you interact with them, how much of them you see on a daily basis. That's how we get a pattern. That's how we know whether we're hunting easy birds or we're hunting hard birds or high pressured birds or low pressured birds. All that is gained through scouting. And then to kind of add to this, it's its own separate item, but another part of being a really good waterfowler is building a big network. This could probably be argued because there'd probably be some guys that don't do it that way, but in my opinion, building a big network or a big resource with other waterfowlers can be very helpful. Now, that doesn't mean we're piggybacking off their hunts. That means we know other waterfowlers, we know farmers, we know game wardens, we know biologists, we know all kinds of people that we can gather information from and share with. So the more you know, the more knowledge you have, the better you're going to be. But building that network and then using the network is as much as part of scouting as actually going out and driving for the birds. And like I said, that does not mean poaching spots and crowd. That doesn't mean that. That just means, your buddy a county away, what's he seeing? When are his geese feeding? You start to put all that together and you start to make plans. You call your biologist at the local refuge. And, if you make a phone call, those guys will share a bunch with you. Most of the time, they want you to do well. So build a big network. That is a very important thing. You can also build a network and use it for resource such as how do you set this spread, how do you call, and so forth, so on. So build a big network and be a part of the network. And then number 5 is a big one. This is learn all you can about the waterfowl that you hunt. So you need to be, this is one that you just need to be super obsessive with. You need to know food source, migration times, what kind of habitat they prefer in different weathers, how they feed, when they feed, where's the roost, where's the flight pattern, what time of day are they feeding. I recommend reading. Reading is great. You doesn't need to be a book on hunting per se. It could just be a book on general duck and goose behavior. For instance, a mallard duck eats a half a cup to a cup when they feed. So they can do that in about 20 minutes. So the things like that you can really start figuring out a pattern, where they're going to feed, how long it's going to take them to be in and out of that field. But the foods that they eat, what plants are nutritious, what plants are just noxious weeds in a marsh. So you really want to be adamant about learning all you can about the actual waterfowl that you hunt. Now, number six is a hard one because this is what most guys will fight, but it's time spent in the field and scouting. Time is what kills birds, but the negative to this is time is your most precious resource and the most expensive thing you have. So more days in the field will equate to better hunts most of the time. So the time you put into this is the most valuable asset you have. And even if that's just studying Google Earth or Onyx, whatever you're on right now, to get a better idea of the lay of the land. But time spent outside is what kills birds. It's what gains knowledge. It's what builds woodsmanship. That is what creates everything. And then number 7, and this is something I don't see a lot of guys spend enough time on, but I'm a big believer in this, which is be the very best you can be with a shotgun. And that doesn't mean just learn how to shoot well, although that is a super important part of the hunt. because one, we need to kill the bird. We don't want a bunch of cripples. But two, we need to take advantage of all the things we create, and we do that by shooting well. But shooting well also means we need to understand the shotguns, we need to understand chokes, we need to understand shot shells, shot strings, the whole deal. So you really need to learn about the main tool that you're going to harvest to kill a duck or a goose with. So we need to learn shot size, we need to learn how a shotgun works, weather effect on shot shells, the patterns, what different choke tubes do, the whole deal. You want to become a freak on shotgun knowledge. That's especially true when you start reading and absorbing shot shell marketing, so you can differentiate what is BS from what is real, so you can pick the best load and choke for your gun and all that. But you become a good shot, become well versed in how a shotgun works and how a shot shell works. So number 8, use the very best equipment you can find, but don't rely on it. So what do I mean by that? Well, equipment doesn't create skill. Equipment doesn't make up for skill. What equipment does is good equipment lets the skills you've built shine. So it lets you take advantage of your knowledge. So use the best equipment you can, upgrade over time. Don't rush into buying everything. Figure out what you like, get the best you can get, and then learn how to use it. But just keep in mind that equipment does not make up for skill set. If you have really good skills at hunting, you can kill a lot of birds with the worst equipment. So just keep that in mind and don't rely on the equipment, rely on yourself. And then 9, be a master at decoys. So it's always good to play outside the box from the normal on decoys, but there's a certain parameter that you have to learn, a certain basic skill set with decoys that's not going to vary a whole lot. And it's not going to vary a whole lot between waterfowlers. So if you would take good waterfowlers and you showed them a field or a pond or a lake and you're going to set up in, most guys are going to be fairly similar with some small nuances inside of those spreads, where the blind goes and exactly the numbers and spacings and all that. But there's a certain parameter you work in, and then there's some nuances that you will build as you learn to hunt and you make your own decoy spreads up. But you really need to learn the basics and then figure out how to play inside of those rules and make them work for you. The decoy spreads are probably one of the harder things to learn besides calling, but it's well worth it. And like I said, you just need to build up your basic index of decoy spreads and then work from that point on. And then number 10, become obsessed with everything on this list. What I just covered in the last 10, 12 minutes or whatever it's been, like I said, that's not in any order of importance. That's just kind of 10 basic rules that you would use to waterfowl hunt better with. So you really need to be good at all of them. There is no one rule. I would say like start here and then go this way. But you really need to work on all of these. This is the skill set. Basically what I just described is your woodsmanship when it comes to killing a duck or a goose. So become obsessed with everything on this list. Read, watch YouTube if you know the person or you think they know what they're doing. Like I said, a good way to always judge that is, are they doing it for the sport or are they doing it for the like button. So become obsessed and learn as much about this as you can. So that is it for today. Like I said, following this list up, I've got a new part of the website coming out, mostly educational based. It teaches everything on this list to a great degree, and that part of the website, while we built it, I can continually update it and add to it. But till then, see y'all next time.